Oh, yes, go with Josh and me a little whoopla. Welcome you. Again, this is the first one of Science of Tradition teachings, and this is just to give people some information, basic foundations of the greenhouse, um, and why. The reason I think this is important when we're looking at the greenhouse, the teachings, and all that is, natureocracy, and by that I mean. Regardless of what our cultures, religions, and all that are, every cell in our bodies, every breath we share, and that all stems from nature. Nature has axioms, immutable laws that we can look to guide us, for our regulatory, our interpersonal, all of those things can be look to nature for guidance, and that's when intuition, interpretation, those things will come into play. And again, that kind of goes back to the red road. Self realization, actualization, internal introspection, contemplation, all of those things are part of our tradition, and that the science of that tradition is important, especially when our youth today, even myself, our society has been basically pushed towards STEM vigorously for many years now. Science, technology, engineering, and math. Our kids, we have to be able to explain tradition, culture, ceremony, love in a way that they understand, that draws them to it so that they can look and see, and build that relationship for themselves and walk that path independently as well. So I said there's the mechanical side of things that I like to look at, in order to bring your mind to that place where you can understand, some of these other things, right? So just first and foremost, I put out there that this is for my kids. I have 8 kids and 12 grandkids, and this is for you guys. All these years I've been doing what I do, Amblecha and all that. I've always asked, who am I and why am I here? And being a father is highest on that list. So this is for you guys. I appreciate you and love each and every one of you. And then for the community as well, community at large. There's young me's out there as well walking around that are asking the same questions that nobody can answer. I'm hoping maybe I can bridge the gap for some of you, if at all possible. And again, this is foundational to the greenhouse, the teachings for mass production, because these greenhouses, we're going to need to be able to relate to each other, to have common ground, common teachings, and nature can be that glue for us, right? So science or tradition, natureocracy, STEM, the red road. So on this one, we're going to talk a little bit about the relationship between DNA and the 4 directions, and then some of the science behind the Inipi and sweat lodge, and our physicality, the physical part of our being, right? So my inspirations for the knowledge has come from reading books and lectures and walking that path, and those that I've read and looked to and found great information from is Greg Braden, Teoka Shingo's Rupert Sheldrake, Bruce Lipton, Joe Dispenza, Vine Deloria, the Lame Deer family, the White Hat family, Black Elk Running family, Cantu family, Long Black Cat family, Michael Sarian, and Gerald Clark. All right, so there's piles of books you can read there that are absolutely amazing. This particular presentation comes from Greg Braden and Gerald Clark, in no small way. Some of the information I have is from Andrew Huberman, Huberman Labs, and then just the teachings from being on this red road from the different elders and families that have helped me along that journey. All right, so 4 directions in DNA. All right. Whenever we do a ceremony or a prayer, we always start with the 4 directions, you know, and there's a reason for that. And it goes back to the like the idea for the movie Stargate, right? So when you have a starting point, you need to be able to isolate a singular point, right? So north, west, east, south, Father Sky, Mother Earth, right? That is what gives you a singular point in space, right? So those by praying and pointing at those directions, you're saying, I'm right here. This is me. I'm offering, you know, these prayers. I'm asking these questions from that center point. You know, that singularity that we all have in common. It's called a Hochoka, and that we all share that regardless of whether we like the people or not. You know, that's where that Mataki Oyasin comes from. We're all related. You know, because we all have that center point. You know, like I said, it has nothing to do with do we like the people or not. You know, it has to do with the nature of reality and consciousness and what our creators put forth for us. You know, and so that's our center, right? That's the 4 directions. What that means is to find your center. You know, and so how does that relate to DNA? All right, so our DNA. When we're looking at those 4 directions, each direction has a different element to it, right? So we're looking at west, it's water; south, it's fire; east, it's air; north, it's earth. I know different tribes, different places, different locations have different teachings as far as the elements and the directions. You know, don't lose the forest for the trees. You know what I mean? So, but when you're looking at oxygen, oxygen is the only one that is a compound. The other ones are singular molecules, and even though there's 2 hydrogens to each oxygen, by volume, the oxygen molecule is vastly larger than the hydrogen. So by volume, oxygen is the most prevalent in the water. So that's the only bridge or whatever that, you know, but it's the reality. When you're looking at these elements, the most prevalent molecules in them is oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen, and carbon. Right? And so our DNA, adenine, thymine, cytosine, guanine, ATCG, are what make up our DNA, right? And those are exclusively made out of these 4 elements: oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen, carbon, in different configurations, different weights, right? And so DNA, what does that mean? What is the translation for DNA? Deoxyribonucleic acid. What does that mean, right? Deoxy is comes from the word for God. Ribo or rabbi is the word for master. Nucleic is the center, and acid is chemical fire, right? So God, the master, the fire at the center of my being, is what DNA stands for, right? And so when we're talking about Hochoka and Lakota, and we're doing the 4 directions to get to our DNA, that's not a stretch, right? And so when you take into consideration what were our elders passing off, what information were they sharing with us, I personally believe that there is a point in time when this was intentionally embedded into this, that this, you know, when you look at places like Cahokia, hunter-gatherers didn't build that. That takes earthworks, that takes education, that takes a lot of time to be able to come to a place to be able to do that type of work. You know, so our 4 directions, our DNA, I believe that our elders were sharing information with us that had to do with the reality of the foundations of our reality, of our consciousness. You know, are they saying that we're aspects of all of these elements somehow put together, right, to make our DNA? And what would that be? What would that other element be? That ether, you know, is that ether made up of love, of Creator's love? Is that the binding agent in all of this? I believe it is. You know, I mean, that for me is a point of faith, of belief, of hope. But all of this other stuff is it's not a stretch, right? You know, and so when we look at Sweat Lodge then, and how we, you know, one of the most common ways that we work to keep this human antenna, this human body in working order, right? Because what is our body? You know, calcium, iron, magnesium, zinc. You know, those are metals, right? And so our skeletons are made out of highly sophisticated metal carbon fiber, right? You know, when you look at our head and spine, it's like this lightning rod, right? And then our ribs are like those antennas that you used to see on the tops of roofs, you know. And so this whole antenna here, and then it goes down over here to our pelvis, right? And that's like a satellite dish, you know. And these different holes are different ways to receive different information. That coccyx one sticks right out just like this does, you know, just a little bit of a different angle, you know. And so you see the different shapes from the female pelvis to the male pelvis, and how that would send and receive information, or how it process information differently, right? You know, so that biologists can tell you that there is the energy that goes through our bones is different than traditional electricity. They just don't have a name for it yet, right? And so when we go back to sweat lodge, you know, again, there's the mechanical side, you know, our human antenna, our physiology, our biology, you know, and sending and receiving of information. And you look at the sweat lodge, and there is just the mechanical side to that, right? And that brings me to Huberman and Andrew Huberman and Huberman Labs, right? He has been studying therapeutic sauna. You know, and he's got protocol 3 is for sauna for growth hormone release. To use sauna for improved release of human growth hormone, use a sauna infrequently, once per week or less. However, on those days you do a sauna, you'll be in the sauna for multiple sections of 30 minutes with cool down periods in between. Peer-reviewed research says this protocol works well to increase growth hormone. 30 minutes in sauna, then cool off outside sauna for 5 to 10 minutes, then 30 minutes more, then cool off. And to do that up to a total of 4 times, right? And so in order to get the maximum growth hormone released and go in a semi-fasted state, so, you know, lower the blood sugar levels. And again, protocol works best if you use it once a week or so. All right, so what does that sound like to me? To me, that sounds like a sweat lodge. Because what are we doing in there? We're bringing the heat up to as hot as you can take it for 20, 30 minutes, opening the door and cooling off. And we do that 4 times, right? So there's the mechanic. Again, just the pure mechanics. You can go into a sauna and cool off and do that 4 times, and your body will release a massive amount of growth hormone, right? Well, what if you take that same idea and add songs of prayer, add that gratitude, the appreciation, and not only that, when you think about the sauna itself, water, when it transitions from state to state, whether it's going from ice to water, water to steam, or steam back to water, right? It ionizes the molecules on it, and it gives them a charge. You know, so when we're sitting in this space of our sweat lodge, and we're putting water on the rocks, and that water is becoming steam, that grandfather's breath inside the lodge, that ionization, that electric charge, and with our hearts and minds in there, it gets us to that cohesive space. You know, that's what. So when you look at the HeartMath Institute of the Global Coherence Initiative, that's that cohesive state that they're talking about. When you have a group of people together that meditate, have a common meditation and a common prayer, that their hearts and minds will go into a state of coherence where they're all at that same place together. And that's just independent of each other. You know, imagine when you're in a sweat lodge, the power of those prayers by unifying us through that electrically charged steam and through our intentions, you know. So we're in there together, one heart, one mind, one prayer. And there's a man or a woman that sits behind the water and pours that, you know. And so in where I'm from, you know, to pour sweat lodge, you have to be a firekeeper for 4 years, and then you have to Sundance for 7 years. All right, and the reason for that is when you sit in that place behind that water, that you can feel and understand where people are coming from, so that you don't hurt them, so that you don't overwhelm them. You know, because it's not a competition. You're not looking for brownie points or a cookie or nothing. You know, we're just there to serve as hands and feet for these ceremonies, you know. So they'll do the work. We just need to be able to listen and know when people are coming up on, you know, being stressed out, so that we can, so that we're helping them, not harming them, right? You know. So again, that red road is that path of self-discovery, and in that sweat lodge, you know, that's a lot of stuff. Like I said, is reflections. It's a mirror philosophy. You know, if you have a hard time sitting still inside a lodge, if you get nervous, if you have anxiety, you know, those are reflections of what's happening in the outside everyday walk of life too. And so we can examine our lives through our behavior and what comes up in our mind inside of these ceremonies, that we can methodically approach, you know, the things in our lives. And that's where they go back to that healing state, that, you know, what they're talking about when they, you know, saying you can heal your DNA, and how that healing can go backwards in time as well, you know. And so it's up to us to be able to share with our relatives, our kids, and it's, like I said, again, it kind of all goes back to be able to explain it in a way that our kids understand, and that as we share these greenhouses and expand on these teachings, we have that common ground to stand on. That, you know, these are the sciences of our traditions. You know, that when you look at like cedar, sage, sweetgrass, tobacco, that's another class I'll be you know, information thing I'll be putting up on just the compounds that are present in those, and why they are so powerful, and how they directly correlate and relate to what we use them for in ceremony. And that's when you look at these things, everything makes sense. Everything is correlative and annotative. You know, it's obvious once you have somebody put it together in just a simple linear fashion. You know, so again, I appreciate your time. This was just an introduction to science of tradition. And again, I'll have more videos up again. I appreciate your time. Thank you.